I remember that there was a transport truck that had just hit another vehicle, and I was the first on scene, and unfortunately that gentleman died in my arms. And he was trying to tell me something, and I don't know what it was. This man, who had worked his whole life a block away from his home, he gets T-boned by a transport truck due to ice. And that's how easy and fast it is. I think I had to go to a neighbor dispute after that with all this guy's blood on my legs. And sometimes people need to realize that that's the reason maybe why that police officer's pissed off at the time, because they had just dealt with a sudden death of maybe someone who had just retired, or maybe a sudden death of a kid, or maybe the hanging of a 10-year-old. And now they have to deal with your stuff.
Calling this Graham 1, take 1.
My name is Graham Trude. I serve with the Lord Strathcona's Horse Royal Canadian Tank Regiment out of Edmonton, Alberta in 2009 in Afghanistan. I then served with the Anishinaabe Police Service in Northern Ontario, and then I served in Orangeville Police Service. I grew up in Collingwood, Ontario. My father was a police officer for 42 years. My brother joined the military as a military police officer, so it was kind of my duty almost to go into that line of work. In 2007, I had just finished my police foundations at Sir Sandford Fleming College in Peterborough, and there was no way I was getting a police job because I had no life experience. Afghanistan was really, really hot at the time, and essentially my brother said, why don't you try and go in the military? I think I was sitting in the platoon maybe for a couple of weeks, and they said, you're going on workup training. It was a very quick and dirty process of, this is what's happening, here's your warning order, you're going overseas, get ready.
Alpha 2-1, that's where I am. 2-1 Bravo. Wow, it's been one hell of a ride.
So I was on tour in 2009, and we lost a lot of people, unfortunately. While you're there, we don't get upset, we get angry. You don't have time to process our emotions and our feelings. We have to continue the mission. The decompression period was, we went to Cyprus, Greece, and they rented a hotel, and every kind of platoon that would leave would go into the decompression period, I think, for like a week. And essentially, it's just a week of drinking. We're fighting each other. we're basically letting loose. And there's zero chance that a bunch of soldiers that just left war are going to sit there and start opening up about their feelings in Cyprus, Greece on decompression. There is not a fucking chance that's going to happen. I mean, I was just a closet addict for years. Essentially, that's what you learn. Like, suck it up, figure it out, and move on. Like, you got to continue with the mission. I've seen a lot of dead bodies and whatnot over the years. That never bothered me. Like, I think the most impactful thing, it wasn't the bombs, it wasn't the IEDs, it was actually when you came home. It was the reintegration. I remember that I had come back from Afghanistan, and I was very proud. I had my resume up. I was doing good. I wanted to do good. And I applied to about 6 different places. places all that had like minimum wage jobs, that had just regular apply now stickers in the windows because I needed something. And I didn't get one call, not one job. And I was trying to hound people. And it said right there on my resume, Afghanistan veteran, yada, yada, yada. You know, so what I'd learned from that is that the public doesn't care. Nobody gives a shit until they have to go and do it. I eventually ended up finding a job. I had a friend of mine who was an ex-military police officer who is now a Thunder Bay police officer, who said, why don't you try and apply for Nishnabioski Police Service? He said they would love an ex-military guy, and it's really northern. And I said, how's the policing? He goes, it's bad, but you know, if you want a job, then there you go. I wanted a job. I ended up going to a First Nations reserve named Poplar Hill. And Poplar Hill had a population of 700 people, and probably about 500 of them were recidivist repeat offenders. There is no clean drinking water. There's no education. There's nothing. There's no resources, and nobody does anything about it. Very, very quickly, I learned the typical calls. A lot of suicides, a lot of home invasions, a lot of stabbings. This is the kind of insanity that's happening there on a daily basis. 10-year-old kids hanging themselves. It's essentially worse than a third world country. Like I had no idea that we had something so comparable with Afghanistan in Northern Ontario. I realized that the Canadian government doesn't give a shit about their own people when I saw that. When you've been through these experiences, it's very difficult. You unfortunately paint humanity in a really bad picture. And you start to learn that the value of life is so little, and you can only take so much. I ended up transferring to Orangeville Police Service, but everything started to bottle up in 2019. I think about this a lot. I think it's a bit of a chain reaction. I was heavily in addiction, alcohol addiction. I had a couple of individuals that I knew in the military that had recently committed suicide. And I had just been talking to a friend of mine who was a firefighter a day before he had killed himself as well. So I think all of these things were starting to build up in my head. And, you know, without understanding it or without really knowing it, the negativity train just kept going down and down and down. And before you know it, the world is awful, everyone's awful, you're miserable. I thought, I wish I died in Afghanistan. I at least would have died a hero. And I'd worked a regular shift. I was drinking in my driveway, and I went inside my house, and I had put a loaded shotgun in my mouth. Because essentially I was ready to be finished. You know, I had seen enough of how humanity was. Luckily, I didn't do it. I don't know. You'd have to ask the universe. I have no idea. I'm usually quite a committed person, so I have no clue what it was, but obviously there's where spirituality comes into play, my man, where something a lot bigger than myself has a different plan. I ended up calling my dad, who was in Florida, and that was the hardest conversation I ever had. when I told my dad, who I looked up to, who I still look up to very much, and I said, I don't want to live anymore. That was a time where I didn't realize that I wasn't alone. I always try and relate back to my brain and why I was thinking the way I was thinking. And the only thing that has come into conclusion for me was two things. I had no purpose and I had no spirituality. And those are the questions that I had to ask myself. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? What's the purpose? I went to Edgewood, the treatment facility in Nanaimo, British Columbia. 6 solid months of work. And all that did was give me the foundation to understand how to live now. This is the way, these are the rules on how you need to live. So going back and addressing all of the skeletons, all of them, pulling them all out of the closet. Even the stuff you say, I'm going to go to the grave with this. Pull that out of the closet, face it one-on-one, and you will be surprised at what will happen. The unfortunate part was I was in love with policing, loved it, and I still do, and I always will. But the decision was made by the psychologists and psychiatrists was for me not to go back into policing. So I had to learn a completely different way to live my life. It's not an overnight thing. I work on it every day still. I do not have perfect days. But you know what? I do have perfect days sometimes. And they're a lot better waking up nice and happy and sober than waking up a miserable hungover asshole. I remember when I was about 8 years old, I was doing my prayers and praying to God. And I said, please let me one day be a musician, because I loved writing music. I loved playing music. So out of all the weird, crazy shit that's happened, in the circle of life, what I asked for was what I got. So my go-to is a song a day keeps the demons at bay. And what I mean by that is if I write a song every day, the demons in my head aren't as loud. They're nice and low, and that is my calmness. That's my antidepressant. It's crazy now. I even have generals and high-end politicians calling me and telling me how impactful my music is to them, and how it helped them get through some of their times. And I never, ever, ever would have thought, ever in a million years, that it would impact someone like that. The mission is just to spread awareness. It's just to continue with being a good father to my son, to be a good husband to my wife, to continue spreading the awareness that you are not alone and that there's a lot of people that go through these types of situations and that there is a better way. It's to continue writing music and making music for the masses. And I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful to whatever's watching over me. I'm grateful to the universe, and looks like I still got a lot of life left to live.